You're listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast with registered patent attorney, Dr. Adam Diament, founder of Diament Patent Law, the #1 source for securing your intellectual property needs. Now, here's your host, Adam Diament.
Hello and welcome to the Patenting for Inventors podcast, episode 130. Can I patent a board game? My name is Adam Diament, a registered patent attorney and founder and owner of Diament Patent Law in Los Angeles, California. I can be contacted through my website at diamentpatentlaw.com. That's D-I-A-M-E-N-T patentlaw.com. I'm going to have a series of episodes about patenting certain kinds of things that maybe you didn't know were patentable, or if they are patentable, what exactly are you patenting about this invention? In this episode, I'm going to be talking about board games. There are a couple different things that are patentable about board games. One is the rules, or it's really a method of playing a game. Remember, I talked a while back that patents can be for physical objects, but they can also be for methods. Maybe an oil company has a new method of refining oil that makes the oil better. They could get a patent on that. If you think about it, board games also have methods. You can also patent the board game itself, the physical object. There could be lots of ways to do this, and it depends on the game. If your game has certain kinds of pieces, you might patent the combination of pieces and dice and how they look. One example is U.S. patent number 8657289. It's called Game Combining Checkers, Chess, and Dice. If you look at the claims, what they did is they claimed what their invention was, and it had 7 parts to it. First, there's a plurality of game pieces for each player. Okay, that's pretty standard. Lots of games have this. Next, a king piece for each player. So far, it sounds like chess, where each player has a king piece. Then they have a first die having a plurality of chess piece designations. That's actually new. I haven't seen a die having chess piece designations on it. We usually see a die having dots on it. Then they have a second die having an indicia for numbers 1 through 6. And that's a common die. You can see how they claimed it to be broad, which is really good. They didn't say a die having numbers 1 through 6. Because that would require the die to actually have numbers on it. But by saying indicia for numbers 1 through 6, it covers dice with actual numbers, but it also covers dice that have dots. Next, they have a board for gameplay. That's nothing new. You need a board for this. The sixth thing is that this board game has a king piece that has a king designation on one side, visible when placed on a reverse side of a standard checker. So you can imagine that there's a checker, and on one side there's just an image of a king piece. And the seventh thing on there is a plurality. Each of the plurality of game pieces, except for the king, appears the same. And that's it. I've simplified the claims a little bit, but if you want to simplify it even more, what they claimed is a board game that has a board, a special kind of die, or dice, because there's more than one, and special kinds of pieces that have particular characteristics. So that's one way of getting a patent on a board game. Another way is to patent the rules of the game, such as how something is scored. If you want to take a look at one of these, you can search for a U.S. patent 5374065, and it's titled Method of Playing a Word-Forming Board Game. If you look at the first claim, and it says, I'm summarizing here, a method of playing a language-building game utilizing a grid-marked playing board, playing tiles having letters of the alphabet, and a scoring sheet. The method comprising the steps of, and then they go into the steps involved in playing this game, and they list 27 steps. I'm going to tell you each of the 27 steps here. Actually, no, I won't. I won't be taking too much of your time for that. But some of the steps involve declaring words, recording words, scoring words, placing tiles down, and finally declaring a winner. Sounds a little bit by Scrabble by the way I described it here, but the rules in the board are different, and they go into that into their claims. Probably one of the most famous board games is Monopoly, and it received a patent that has long expired because the patent was issued in 1935. But if you want to look it up, it's U.S. patent number 2026082. And there was a lot of controversy regarding this game. If you're interested, you could look up the history of Monopoly. And if you look at the patent, what they got a patent for was a board game having a board that had a path where spaces are designated by position or color to constitute a distinguishable group. You can think of those, there's the 3 color groups for kind of those properties that go together, or sometimes 2. The board has indications of rentals required by opponent players, where the rental state is subject to increase by the acquisition of additional spaces of the same group, making it possible for the possessor to exact greater payments or penalties from any opponent resting or trespassing on it. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's one of the claims that they got. Another thing that you could get a patent for is the design of your board game if you do a design patent. Design patents protect the look of your invention, so if your board game has a unique look, then you could get a patent on it. Remember that if someone makes the same game, but they just make the board look different, then they won't be infringing your design patent. The same rules for patenting a board game as it is for other things. It must be new, useful, and non-obvious. The useful part is easy. The new part is also generally pretty easy. It's usually the non-obvious part that's the hurdle to get over. If you just came up with a Scrabble game and you change the values of the letters, you're not going to get a patent on that. Yes, that's new, but it would just be considered obvious to change point values on a letter compared to the original. There are going to be all kinds of different strategies to protect your board games. Maybe patents are the right approach. It could be a utility or design patent. You might just want to trademark the name. You also might want to copyright the design board and instructions. If you're going the utility patent route, you might want to think about what is the minimum amount that makes your game unique and non-obvious, and think about alternative ways it might be played, because maybe you came up with a method of playing, but someone comes along and just takes the general concept but comes up with a new way of playing, or just changes a couple pieces of the board so they're not infringing. So there's a lot of work and planning involved in getting the broadest protection for your board game. And if you want help with your patent application, trademarks, copyrights, responding to rejections, appeals, or anything else related to your invention, call Diament Patent Law at 424-281-0162. I'm Adam Diament, and until next time, keep on inventing.
Thanks for listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast. For more information and help with your own intellectual property needs, contact Adam Diament directly by going to diamentpatentlaw.com. That's DIAMENT patentlaw.com. Or click the show links to connect by phone, text, or social media. The contents of this podcast are intended for general informational purposes only. The facts of every legal matter are unique, and the content of this podcast should not be construed as offering legal advice for your specific legal situation. The preceding information may be considered an attorney advertisement and does not establish any attorney-client relationship.